Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Seb from Intuiface here. Thanks for joining me on this second day of our user conference. In this session, we are going to talk about touchless touch options. Thank you, Jeff, for the title, Touchless Touch. Basically, with the COVID-19 situation, we've all been asked, how can I keep having kiosk, having interactive experiences in the field that provide more safety and enabling our users to actually use the kiosk, but without touching them? We are going to look at two families of options. The first one will be software-based options. The second one will be hardware-based options. Let's get into it. On the software side, the main principle is going to rely on a BYOD solution, bring your own device. Basically asking the users to use their smartphone to interact with the kiosk instead of using the touch. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing you will need to do is to provide some information from the kiosk to the smartphone. And the easiest way to do that, which is getting way more trendy than a few years ago, is to use a QR code. You scan the code with your phone, and then something happens on the phone, and it enables you to communicate back to the kiosk. So where is Intuiface into this? Well, obviously you can generate the QR code in Intuiface. That's pretty easy. But then what can you expect to receive on the Intuiface side? The first option will be to use the web triggers. And some of you might be familiar with the reference designs we have released during the COVID situation, the multi-mode interaction. So I'm not going to show this one again because you've seen it already. I would like to share a real case study, a real project built by one of our partners, the Element Group in the US. So let's have a look at this one first. All right, so what you have seen is after scanning the QR code, the user gets a web page on his mobile phone. Based on that, he has some options with buttons, with maybe text inputs to send some commands to the kiosk, or if you have a text input to send some commands and additional information such as an email address, or like in this video, an employee ID. This actually is used in some banks in the US to check the status of the employees coming inside the bank and to make sure that they haven't been in contact with someone with COVID, they have followed the safety guides, etc., etc. So this solution is really appropriate when you have an easy experience with just a couple of choices or some basic navigation or some really driven choices like these 4 or 5 buttons you have. It's actually what I'm using at the end of each of my sessions during this user conference to ask all of you to vote. And that's the second advantage of this solution. You can have multiple people scanning the code and sending the same kind of information to the experience. And that's pretty cool and pretty unique. Now, if you have already built an experience in the past, which is pretty complex, like a heavy information-based experience for a museum or for very complex presentations with lots and lots of scenes, and every scene is different, building the web interface on the mobile phone might be quite expensive in terms of time to spend to build that. In this case, there is a second approach, which is still using a QR code to display something on the web page, but we'll use a remote trackpad. We'll transform your phone or the user's phone into a trackpad as you have on your laptop. You have multiple solutions to do that. The first one I'm going to show you is some off-the-shelf solutions, and I'm quoting 2 of them here, FreeTouch or KioTouch. We don't have any partnership with them yet, but I really like the way FreeTouch is presenting this, so let's have a look at their video. So as you can see, this solution will actually work with any kind of experience of application actually running on the kiosk. It will just emulate a mouse cursor and emulate the click of a mouse when you do a tap on your phone. So this will be more adapted if you have some complex experiences with lots of different layouts between your different scenes. And so you can either go with some off-the-shelf solutions, such as the two I mentioned, or you could even build your own custom solution using, as we discussed in the previous session, how to communicate with the outside world, some interface assets. And we don't have an off-the-shelf solution ourselves yet, but I'm still going to share a little peek at a prototype we have right now. So I'm actually going to grab this iPad and scan the code I have in front of me. There we go. And I will put this here. So you should be able to see what's going on. Now, if I use the finger here, you can see on my screen that the mouse is actually following as if I was using a trackpad on my laptop. I could click on objects like this. I could do some swiping and scrolling. I could even open objects and then move them around. So that's the same idea as FreeTouch or KioTouch, all these solutions. Actually, this prototype is built using a custom interface set in .NET. The downside of this solution, this prototype right now, it relies on the local network only, while the WebTriggers solution we mentioned earlier, or the FreeTouch solution you saw in the video, they work with 3G, 4G connections. So that's way more frictionless for the users. They scan the code, whatever network connection they have, it works. And that's what you should be targeting. Having something that is very straightforward for the user to understand, scan the code, okay, I get it, it works, there's no barrier, you don't need to log into a special Wi-Fi or something like that. And in this prototype, the little web page you saw on the iPad here is built on JavaScript and WebSockets, based mainly on open source projects you can find on GitHub. So if you have any developer in-house who want to investigate these options, these are the kind of things you could even build on your own. So software-based options, we talked about QR code plus web triggers or QR code plus remote trackpad that actually works with the system itself, with the operating system. Let's jump into some hardware-based solutions. And in this case, we are going to add a peripheral to enable the user to interact with the kiosk. I tried to divide this in two categories, and you will see it's kind of pretty similar to what we did with the web triggers on one side and the touch emulation or the trackpad on the other side. If you have a simple experience, just a couple of actions, pretty fast, you might go with the gesture-based interaction. If you have something pretty complex, which was designed to be used with touch, then going with a touch emulation solution might be a better option. So first, gesture-based interaction. When we talk about gesture and sensors, the first name we want to quote is Nexmosphere, our partners. And actually, I'm just going to play the video. You will see how do you build an experience, because you do need to add some gesture triggers in the experience, and how can you use that. Let's go. All right, so pretty cool device. You can stick it under a surface and it just works. It looks like magic. I would put some guidance on the table to explain where the sensor is, but actually I'm not going to talk too much about this air gesture sensor, because Ivo from Nexmosphere, our partner, has a session in about half an hour from now. So if you want to learn everything you need to know about this new X-Touch sensor, just stay connected and be sure you do not miss his session. So the next one I want to show is actually built by one of our value-added resellers in Asia, in Singapore. They are present in Singapore and Malaysia, and they actually did a custom build on, honestly, I'm not even sure what kind of sensors they used. And that's the important thing I want to show you here and to talk about. You don't need to use something which already works. If you find a sensor, if you find a new technology that you would like to integrate, as ClickGrafix did with these sensors, with the notion of interface assets, you can add these features to the Intuiface platform. So let's have a look at what they did. So the common point between these two solutions, air push, air press, swipe left, swipe right, so fairly simple gestures that works. And you need definitely to design your experience to be adapted to this kind of navigation. If you have a complex layout on your screen and you need some precise pointing and clicking, then these solutions might not be the best for this kind of experiences. If you want more information about the ClickGrafix solution, you can post on our user community. They're pretty active there, or just go on their website, clickgrafix.com. So that's for the first part of the hardware-based options. Let's now talk about touch emulation. So how can I do some touch without touching? That's the real stuff. We have multiple partners, and we released over the last days, weeks, some videos about that. So I tried to gather all of them, or most of them here. So you get the overview of these solutions with their pros, cons, how they work. And the first one we are going to have a look at is UltraLeap, formerly Leap Motion, and their new touch-free solution, software solution, which goes beyond their device. So let's have a look at their video.
The world has changed. 80% of people now think public touchscreens are unhygienic. But with interactive kiosks playing such an important part in our lives, what's the solution? Introducing TouchFree by UltraLeap, the simplest way to add touchless gesture control to your kiosk and screen experiences. No need to change the user interface or write a single line of code. Want to make your kiosk touch-free? Here's how it works. Mount an UltraLeap camera module to your kiosk and connect it via USB. With the world's most advanced hand tracking installed, you're just a few steps away from having a touchless kiosk. Download TouchFree and run its setup steps to get started. Confirm the camera's location for your screen using just your finger. TouchFree will now detect hand movements in mid-air and convert it to an on-screen cursor. TouchFree runs on top of your existing user interface, providing familiar touchscreen-style interaction. The air push interaction provides a natural way to select buttons or scroll through content, as if you were using a touchscreen, but in mid-air. Select your preferred interaction style, then customize the cursor to complement your brand and user interface design. TouchFree also includes example instructional animation to help users recognize that your kiosk is touchless and how to operate it in mid-air. UltraLeap also provide in-depth design and setup guidelines for touchless displays. TouchFree, the simplest way to add touchless gesture control to your kiosk and screen experiences. Want to find out more? Visit UltraLeap for downloads, documentation, and design guidelines.
All right, so as you may have seen in the video, actually, that's their launch video. We were part of the beta test of this new device, this new sensor, which I have here with me, the AIRxTOUCH170, which has a wider field of view compared to the older Leap Motion controller. And if you are a kiosk manufacturer and you want to embed such a solution, it could be a good one to look into and to test. You've seen in the video, just plug it in, you calibrate, and then it works. So it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. And they honestly, they really made a lot of improvements compared to the Leap Motion we used to work with, what, 5 years ago almost. So yeah, good job on UltraLeap for this one. The next partner I want to talk about is actually providing a bit more than just a sensor. They provide a full kiosk, the AIRxTOUCH kiosk with the AIRTOUCH technology. And so, yeah, it's better to look at the video first. All right, so AIRxTOUCH, you may have seen this portrait-oriented kiosk with the sensors on the side and at the bottom. You get a real good precision on the touch. I didn't test the kiosk myself here in the US, but I just sent their team the experience you have seen. They shot the video, just worked out of the box. The last partner I want to talk about is Gestoos, where they're using Intel RealSense 3D cameras. They also work with other brands of cameras like Orbeck. So let's have a quick look at their video. There we go, 3 different options to emulate a touch interactivity. So you build, the common thing with these 3 solutions is that you build your experience as usual, as if you were going to use it on a touchscreen. And then you buy the hardware from one of these 3 companies, you put the software that comes with it, and on Intuiface, you have nothing to do. No new trigger, no particular setting, it just works. This concludes this session. As for the previous ones, please stay tuned. We're going to switch to the live Q&A. I will again need your participation. Grab your smartphone, be ready to scan the code. The only question I will not answer in the live Q&A, and I prefer saying this now, is don't ask me about the prices for all these hardware solutions. Intuiface still does not sell hardware, and most of the time, I don't know about their pricing. So we will put some links in the user community about all these partners we mentioned. You can also find them on our website in the Tech Ecosystem Partner page on the product. So the best thing would be to contact the one you're interested in. See you in the live Q&A. Bye now.